In the previous episode we spoke about our crushed Pacific sailing dreams and the reason for not transiting the Panama Canal.
More or less the whole Pacific is closed. Pretty much the same of the Caribbean.
For us it seemed to be the best solution to sail back home to Europe and to cross the whole Caribbean Sea before the hurricane season arrives. In this episode we start our crazy long journey from Panama back to Europe and showing you how complicated it can be as a long distance sailor nowadays.
Yay! We are officially checked out.
We can go!
Yeah, we can go. So this is a miracle. We got our SwT, and we have our crew list stamped, and passport stamped, and everything is good to go.
And it took quite a bit of persuasion, right?
Yeah, let me just put it very diplomatically and carefully. We had to motivate a few people to make this done because everything is closed and it's curfew and no one is allowed to work. So by miracle we have all the papers and everything done.
And do we have a stamp in the passport?
Yes.
Yes. So we are gonna get out of here.
We're out.
We don't know where we go because we might be rejected all over the world, but we're just gonna enjoy sea life.
Yeah.
After crazy lots of fun in Panama, it was time to say goodbye to friends, neighbors and staff. It has been such a blessing to meet so many cool people and all the adventures around here.
Oh, mamma mia!
I promise there will come several videos later from Bocas del Toro, San Blas and Shelter Bay Marina.
Maybe for the dessert. You never know.
And because Shelley is gonna feature in several videos in the future, she's telling you a little bit about her sailing experience before this journey starts.
I was backpacking in Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, and sort of by mistake I ended up on a boat and did half a year of sailing around Fiji, New Caledonia, and I loved it so much that I vowed there while I was there that I would one day buy my own boat and sail back there. I set sail from Holland and went south along the west coast of Europe, Canary Islands, and then I crossed the Atlantic and spent a really cool time in the Caribbean with my boat. And 2 years ago I sailed a boat to Panama. It's in Bocas del Toro now.
Good morning!
Good morning. Is there any coffee to be found on your boat?
Yeah.
This is the location where we hang out for a few weeks and where we for the first time discussed the idea of crossing the Pacific together on Be Free.
It's amazing.
Vamos. Ta, el otro. Ta. 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 Vamos. Ta. This is Bocas.
And of course we had lots of fun in Bocas del Toro, where we also met other cruisers. This is also where we spent some time with Rick and Maddie from Sophisticated Lady.
Oh, nice. I can hold the plate for
A
you.
good friend from our channel that we met just a few months ago here in Panama.
Preview
His
of
boat is
SSL
called
400.
Be Free, a Bavaria 55.
With Sailing with Thomas.
Landed most of the way here from Europe. And yeah, you might ask why he chooses to be a solo sailor, but it's like...
What are you doing, Thomas?
What? I'm struggling with this generator. But it's so tight down here.
It's so much fun, having a sailboat.
Yeah, it is, but now and then it's pain in the ass as well. So the problem was the generator was running but did not produce any 220. Also lots of error codes on the digital panel. After fumbling around in the basement under the dinghy garage, I finally found out it was some problem with the motherboard. This is some of the things you have to do when you are a sailor. In general, it's not easy to get spare parts in Panama, and now during curfew, almost impossible. Because the generator is so critical for running the water maker, I just had to fix it with whatever I had on my hands before starting our journey.
We have power? 100%? Wow! You're a magician! Wow! Well done! Safely cross the Atlantic now.
Yeah, let's run it on 220 for a while, see how it works.
As everything now is ready and shipshape, route planning is the next thing to do. In this water, it's a good idea to have an overview of the commercial traffic before laying the route. For this we use Predict Wind and can also simulate different routes according to the weather preferences and my boat's diagram that is uploaded. However, this software does not know about all the other challenges sailing in these waters from Panama to Martinique, with piracy dangers and no-go areas like the borders between Panama, Colombia, Venezuela and so on. So we will be sailing a slightly different route than suggested here. And before untying our ropes, we made a last check that the beautiful island Martinique still is open to European boats. As Be Free is Norwegian, it's considered as European, and the last update tells us that Martinique still is open. Leaving Panama behind after 7 months here is with mixed feelings. Not only because this was not how I had planned for, but also sailing into the unknown due to the world situation with the COVID. I was so tired after working day and night to get everything ready before departure, so I took the first opportunity to take a nap.
What's up, Shelley?
There's the ship
Ship?
coming towards us from behind,
Oh, catching up on us.
catching up.
What kind of ship?
It is a cargo ship carrying dangerous goods, harmful substances, or marine pollutants.
Okay, we should let him pass them.
Yeah.
So we're looking at the weather.
Yeah. To have the nicest, smoothest sailing. Since time is not an issue for us, because we have to wait anyway before we get into the Atlantic, and we might be kicked out of all the islands in the Eastern Caribbean. Doesn't really matter much how long it takes us to get all the way east here. So, just looking for a smooth ride.
Sailing from west to east in the Caribbean means that you have to fight your way against currents and choppy waves. So this is pretty much how it's gonna look the next days.
I hardly can stand, and you come up from the galley with this.
Noodles plus! Instead of 2-minute noodles, this was 3.5-minute noodles.
As we get closer where the wind and waves normally picks up northwest of Colombia, we could really confirm what this region is famous for. Some sailors have told me this was one of the roughest sail they ever had in the Caribbean Sea. Even though we choose to keep a very good distance to Santa Marta, we later this night experienced wind gusts reaching 40 to 50 knots. And the waves grew fast into uncomfortable choppy waves, and we had to take down the mainsail. After our rough battle throughout the night, wind came down and the waves were now much more comfortable in size and shape.
I'm measuring how many miles we have to go.
I thought you were writing a blog post update.
Yeah, but I don't want to lie in the blog post, so I'm actually calculating.
Ah.
So I'm gonna upload it pretty soon now.
Love it. Sailing straight into a new sunrise tomorrow. I hope.
Everyone who knows me know I always had loved sunsets. However, my love to sunrise has grown past the sunsets after being a full-time sailor. It's just something magical and promising with a light that slowly returns after a dark night. And when the sun climbs out of the horizon, it's filled with positive energy, bringing you a new day full of possibilities.
What's going on?
Oh, I'm just reorganizing our orchard. And well, there's a little bit too many ball sacks, so I'm trying to give that back to 2.
And finally we have pretty calm seas, beautiful weather, makes it possible to do things like that. It's been pretty rough the previous night, so to have this beautiful weather is just like holiday sailing.
Amazing! Or like the Americans would say, awesome!
That's awesome!
We were close to 8 knots, but then we stopped into a wave.
It's pretty badass wave. How are you doing?
Yeah. I'm also about to lose this one. Oh, you're filming me!
Yeah. I was asking what
How
you're
I'm
doing.
fixing my crotch strap.
Oh. Just amazing. Look at that sunset. Leaving another sunset behind.
Oh, I love this.
On our way to Martinique.
Yay.
Hopefully.
After a rough sail outside coast of Colombia, it was a lot of things that needed some attention. Vegetable, fruits and potatoes was flying out of the hammocks during the waves. Later, I also found out there was an intense smell of beer from my cabin. Some of the beer cans had exploded. So it was just to empty everything out, clean and restore everything back that still was intact. Most of the time we adjust the sails for good balance in the boat, and B3 sails super stable. As you can see, we don't even use the autopilot.
You have the helm.
It's not gonna be easy, I think.
Oh, in these waves it's amazing.
Good thing is, it's gone.
Yeah. Organic.
Yeah.
In the sunset. We are just outside of Dominican Republic, which is a little bit weird. I was visiting that island a year ago. This time we're just gonna sail pass by it. So it was beautiful weather, it's almost flat sea, beautiful sunset, 10 to 12 knots wind, and we are doing around 6 knots, which is not so bad. Considering we stocked up the boat for 8 months, so we are pretty heavy. Oh. 666. scary number. That's the number of miles you have to go to reach Martinique. To get this fat old lady out to run again. Come on, you can do it, you can do it.
How's it going so far?
8.5.
Yay! Give me 10.
10. Or not. Now we need more wind.
Oh.
I should focus on sailing. I can't be a clown and sailor at the same time, but it really doesn't work.
I'll focus on the sailing then.
Yeah, I will.
And give us 10.
Uh,
We're going nowhere.
this is ridiculous. I have to start all over again.
We're even gonna tack.
So,
Great, that I'm filming now.
yeah, I know. It's very difficult conditions.
There's hardly any winds, and we were doing 8 knots, so
Yeah.
that was pretty magical.
Build up the speed again from so we start building up and we'll tweak a little.
There we go.
It's really fun to see how fast she accelerates if you just trim the sails right. It's almost like sailing a dinghy.
Almost your 10 now.
Really?
9.2.
Oh wow. Let's see that you're not lying.
Yeah, it just dropped 8.4,
Of course.
8.7.
Whoa. Just surf a little.
Possible like this.
Yeah. Surf dude.
It's 8.3.
Hey, that was a good one.
Getting closer to Martinique means also more Atlantic weather in terms of squalls. We encounter a few of those, but it was not too bad. Just a 25 plus knots wind and short rain showers now and then. The waves we hammered through earlier shredded the net around my boat, and she looks really sad now. I've been thinking about removing this anyway, so now it's just to wait for calmer seas and this will disappear. Even though it's beautiful weather, it's still a little bit rolly. Photos and videos never tells the truth when it comes to waves, but I guess the gimbal stove gives you an idea how it is.
Oh. So why are you so happy?
Land ahoy! Finally!
To the Team Martinique?
15 days after departure, we're pointing at Martinique and we can see the mountains.
And I'm falling because we are healing up quite a lot.
And even though the boat is doing 7 knots, we're going there with 4 knots because we have about 3 knots current coming in from the side. It's a bit of a struggle, but we'll get there. 53 miles to go.
And we still have some fruit left and still some veggies. And it's absolutely beautiful weather. Blue sky almost. And sunshine. But it's a bit cold. It's weird. It's really cold compared to Panama.
Yeah, I'm considering putting on a vest at the moment, a jacket.
Yeah.
According to the rules, we contacted the Coast Guard when sailing into French territorial waters. However, it's now the MRCC that handles this, even though all documents and online information say you should contact the Cross AG, which is the Coast Guard.
You are not allowed for
Okay, thank you for this update information. We have sent pre-clearance via website, so I hope you have that in your systems already.
Yes, we have already. The problem came from a change in with a new regulation since yesterday. A new regulation that explain you need due to your flight you need an authorization from French authorities, and we have not this authorization yet.
Okay, roger that. But you expect to maybe have that tomorrow morning, over?
Yes, we hope for you, and we know that you come from Panama since the 2nd of April, so you have made a long travel, and we know your position, and we have sent to us all documents in time, so we hope we will have an answer for you.
The MRCC confirms to have received all our documents accordingly to the rules and minimum 40 hours upon arrival. However, the rules had changed while at sea and the day before we arrived. France has changed the rules from accepting European boats to only EU-flagged boats, and this was a bit confusing.
Thank you very much. Standing by on 16. Over.
It's probably unnecessary to explain the feeling of being rejected. After our long non-stop sail through the whole Caribbean Sea, we were mentally prepared before leaving Panama that something like this could happen. But to hear that my flag is the problem was a surprise, and for the first time ever experienced. Luckily we have a satellite system with unlimited use of SMS and email on board. And our amazing Norwegian friend sitting home in Oslo being the best shore crew you ever could wish for. He instantly contacted the Norwegian government and updated us with information. Meanwhile, I had to come up with a solution, making our waiting time outside of Martinique as easy as possible, as we had no idea of how long time this would take and not being allowed to anchor. After some experiments with drifting anchor, we found a good rhythm to sail south and drift north again. This gave us a rest interval of 3 to 5 hours depending on how much wind and currents we had, not to mention the squalls now and then. Last update from Norway was very positive. The Royal Norwegian Embassy in Paris was now on the case. According to the EU directive from 2004, France had no mandate alone to decide which country belongs to EU or not. So this was going to be explained to the French authorities, but unfortunately it's now Saturday.
Different for the phone, channel 68.
Yeah, B3 is responding on channel 68. Over.
Good evening again, sir. We have no more news from French authorities.
After updating Trond again, we asked for permission to anchor outside of St. Anne tomorrow morning. We even asked for port of refugee due to fatigue, according to international maritime laws, but even this was denied.
Sunset outside of Martinique.
Sunrise.
Yeah. Okay, take this again. Another sunrise. Okay.
That's east, that's west.
I'm so happy you point this out. I think it's time to sleep.
You just woke up.
I did. So it's your turn to sleep. So what are we waiting for?
No, I'm not in the right mood now.
I got that away.
Yeah.
Obviously we were super tired, and ending up in a situation like this is more tiring than a long sail. We were now in the middle of a bureaucratic mess out of our hands. Of course, any nation can decide to close the borders and even select which nationalities they allowed in. Our problem was France changed the rules from European boats to something France called EU boats overnight, the night before we arrived. If the French government did not want Norwegian boats, they should list up accepted nationalities, not make a document saying EU boats only. Norwegian flag boat is then entitled the same rights as all nationalities within the EU. After 72 hours of waiting, we received a new message from Trond, a copy of a letter sent from the Royal Norwegian Embassy instructing the MRCC and Martinique about the EU directives. We then contacted the MRCC again to push a little and question them about the meeting with the head of MRCC, consulates and the letter from our embassy. Tired of all this political bureaucracy, we almost could not believe the message we got over the radio. We were allowed in, no quarantine, and could anchor wherever we desired. We also were informed about fuel and water. The MRCC operators were all the time very helpful, but they had their rules. Yet we could really hear and feel their sympathy over the communication and somehow believe they were on our side.
That is really welcome. Very much welcome. Amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, and I wish we could invite you on the boat and share it with us, but we should not, I think, huh?
Hundreds of boats had heard our communication and our 72-hour struggle to get into Martinique. Later, several sailors come by with their dinghies and welcomed us and told how angry they had been on our behalf. But now everything is all good and we are officially cleared in. It's time to fly the French courtesy flag and to celebrate. But before we could go ashore, I had to clean the carburetor for the outboard to our dinghy. We are also allowed to go ashore for grocery shopping, but have to register online and either print out or have a QR code on our phone. So now it's time to get some French baguettes, cheese and relax a little bit.
Social distancing!
Cheers! And let's baptize Myra back on board. Cheers, Myra!
Cheers.
Yeah, again.